whatever someone's willing to give as far as their time and creativity, someone wants that.
Yeah.
Somebody out there is interested in receiving that.
Welcome to What Living Means. I'm Vanessa Jasinski. When you turn on the news or scroll through your social media feed, does it feel like a torrent of negativity? Why is this? What is missing? Kindness. While we have been forced to maintain physical distance from one another for the time being, that does not mean we cannot find ways to be kind to one another each day. On this episode, we've got two guests that prove kindness does in fact still exist in this world, regardless of the raging tire fire on your Facebook page. Thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us on our show. I'm so thrilled about this topic just because, we all know everything that we're seeing on the news, and there's just this intensity happening in the world right now. And I think, if anything, this is the most important time for us to be kind to one another. And I wanted to just get a better sense as to why is this of importance to you, and why did you build your career around this?
Well, for me, it all started about 10 years ago. I was on the edge of what anyone would call an alcoholic. So I was a drinker, a smoker, an overeater. I was angry at my husband all the time. And I should stop and say, like, I had a great life. I had three healthy, small kids. I was married to my childhood sweetheart. I had everything that a person could want. And yet I just felt this huge void inside of me that I tried to self medicate. And I stumbled upon a random act of kindness. I actually did an act of kindness for someone else, a young mom, and it really wasn't a big deal, except that after having this quick little interaction with this woman, I got back into my car with this high, unlike anything I had ever experienced from any of the bad decisions I had ever made. And I wanted to chase that. I thought, what is this? Doing an act of kindness can really change your day. And so I kind of started to chase that idea. And what I found was not only will kindness change a bad day and reroute a bad day, it can change a bad life and reroute a bad life. And within a year of being intentional and systematic about kindness on a weekly basis, I had totally quit drinking, quit smoking, lost 30 pounds, fell in love with my husband, who, yeah, it turns out is a great guy. So my whole home changed. And I thought, I wonder if this would work for other people.
How would you suggest someone getting started with this sort of new life adventure? I mean, I just wrote a journal, I did a few things, but if you really want to infuse your life with the acts of kindness, how would you go about maybe helping someone else achieve that?
I like to wake up every morning and try to be the miracle for someone else. And even just the tiniest little miracle, like that could be, going to the grocery store and seeing the woman who is checking out my groceries and realizing that she's just got a sadness or a weariness in her eyes, and being able to look at her and say, I'm so glad you're here today. When I come here and I get to stand in your line and I get you as my cashier, like, it makes me so happy. And then to see her face light up, those are the kind of exchanges that I like to create every day. So it's not always about money. It's not always about having extra time. I mean, everybody is stretched for everything these days, but we do have the ability to use our words to lift other people up. And so I love to do that. Although some people really like to have a list of ideas and just say, give me a list. I want to be able to go check it off. In my book, The Negativity Remedy, at the very end of it, we've got 365 ideas for being kind. And I've actually heard from one woman was telling me that she checks them off as she does them.
Yeah, and I think, especially when we were talking about altering that conversation and giving that nice sort of, how are you doing today? Or, waving me into traffic. I love that. It makes me so happy. I'm like, wait, hold on. Did this really happen?
Totally, absolutely. But I will tell you, Vanessa, that one of the top tips I give people is to think about what you're thinking about. And that's really important because if our mind is constantly on the news of the day, the latest protest, whatever it might be, if we are sucked into this negativity vortex, we don't have the ability in our brain to pay attention to those times in which we can be kind.
Yeah.
Think about what you're thinking about. Are the thoughts hurried? Are they full of worry? Are you being the judge and jury of everybody else? And if you are, it's time to reject those and replace them with other thoughts because it will change the outcome of your day. Open your phone, open the calendar on your phone, and put in every Thursday, 3 p.m. Think about what you're thinking about. And then
Hmm.
put it on repeat. And every Thursday, it'll come up 3 p.m. Think about what you're thinking about because that gets us in the habit of really understanding what is in our mind space and are we quick to jump to a conclusion about someone else and whether they are kind or unkind because of where we're sitting in our own mind. So
Yeah.
put it on the calendar, make it part of your life and eventually it just becomes more natural.
Okay, so I have seen this quite often lately about people not being nice. And so, what advice would you give to somebody if they see that or there's an exchange where someone isn't necessarily being kind in return? So, is there a way to help navigate that conversation so it becomes one that's positive versus the negative?
When we talk about people who are perhaps unkind or even baiting us into a conversation or a situation we don't want to be a part of, I really feel like building a bridge of compassion can help us see eye to eye. And even if they're not going to see eye to eye with us, we can be the bigger person, if you will, and see where they're coming from. And so building that bridge of compassion forces us to either create stories or ask questions. And so, in a situation like this, Vanessa, if you and I were talking about politics and you said something that really bothered me, I could say, help me understand that. Can you tell me more about why you feel the way you do? What in your past brought that up for you? But in a situation where, you cut me off in traffic and I'm not going to follow you to the gas station and say, "Hey, what's going on in your day that's making you act this way?"
Yeah,
That
yeah.
it would be unwise. So in that situation, I find that just creating a story about that person can help us to create this bridge of compassion. So I might think to myself,
Mhm.
that lady just cut me off in traffic. What a jerk. What's her issue? Or I can think to myself, wow, you know what? I wonder if she was up all night with a baby and she is just exhausted today. Or she got in a fight with her husband, or she's lost her job and she's just angry at the world. It's not about me.
Wow. That's great advice. And what do you think in terms of, this year it's a lot of people are strapped for cash and but people want to give back. What are some great ways you can suggest for our listeners to give back without necessarily being present somewhere, obviously with restrictions, with everything still happening with COVID, or without having to do it from a monetary standpoint?
Well, I'll tell you what, having breast cancer in 2015, I handled that really well most days. But then there were those days when I woke up and had this huge dark cloud over my head. And those were the days I knew I had to be really intentional and systematic about kindness.
Mhm.
The morning that I woke up and there was a thunderstorm outside and I was feeling really sad about having cancer and very nervous about it. It was 4:30 in the morning and I knew that the woman who lived in a tent on my neighbor's lawn
Mm.
gonna be getting up and going to work. She was a recovering drug addict and she had secured a job, but it was a couple of miles across town at a dry cleaners. So she would get up every morning at 4:30 in the morning and walk to work so she could be there by 6.
Wow.
I knew when I woke up and it was storming that she was going to be walking in this storm. And I thought, I should really give her a ride or I should call her an Uber. None of those things seemed right to me in that moment. I just sat in bed and I just said to myself, no, I am completely physically, emotionally, and financially tapped out. I have nothing left to give. I am not getting out of this bed. But later that day, I saw this woman and I stopped and I said, hello, hey, do you want to ride home? And she said, no, it's a beautiful day. I'll walk. And I said, are you walking every morning? And she said, yeah, but I almost have enough saved up to buy a bike.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, like, just like you, like, "Oh, okay, like, wait
Yeah.
a minute." I said, "Wait, you need a bike? I have a bike in my garage. No one's using it. It's extra, like, no one is going to use it. Come and take it." She got the bike and, she said, "Why would you do this for me?" And I just said, "I see you. I see how hard you're working, and I imagine some days it just feels like it would be easier to give up and relapse, and I just think what you're doing is really amazing, and, you're very brave and you're very strong, and the least I can do is give you this bike."
Just doing something like that that'll help her progress through her daily life. It's amazing. Of course, I don't like talking about COVID that much because we hear about it all the time, but it's our reality. Are there any other ways where people can still give back without having to be, going to a facility or a center to assist?
Yeah, a couple of things online. First of all, let's start right there in our home would be leaving a Yelp review for your favorite local business. Local businesses are hurting, right? And so
Yeah.
even if we can't go to them right at that particular moment, we can spread the word. And it means a lot to those businesses when somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I have the best service every time I come here, and Carrie is fantastic."
Mm-hmm.
And so start there and make that a habit of just loving on your community from your own home. The other thing is that there are all kinds of really fun ideas that come over social media. And I subscribe every day to an email newsletter that comes to me in the morning from Inspire More, and it's called The Morning Smile.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll tell me, fun things that other people are doing and just different acts of goodness happening in our world. And sometimes I'll take one of those and I'll think, well, I could do that. I can make really cute, colorful pictures with my kids and deliver them to the nursing home, and then they can give them to the residents. Like, we can do that.
Yeah.
As much as the internet can sometimes be the bane of our existence, it also can be a source of really great ideas.
What would be some great ways to be nicer online? I know you did mention a few things, but you know, to your point, you just check out. If you feel like, oh, I don't know about this conversation, I don't want to see this.
My personal thumb rule for social media is that the minute that I start to feel any negativity crawl up through my belly, it's like a gut check. I'm off. I'm
Yeah.
off. Does not matter if I went through the rest of my notifications and figured out, who I needed to respond to.
Hmm.
I step away because I know, okay, I'm not in a place mentally where I'm going to handle this well. So that's the first thing,
Yeah.
to be able to let it go. The second thing, bring the light, right? Try to encourage somebody else within your posting on social media. And if
Hmm.
you are responding to someone else who is clearly agitated, sometimes just saying, "I see you. I'm here."
Hmm.
Those are encouraging words that don't necessarily mean that we agree with them or we disagree with them. We're just saying, "I'm here with you. I care about you."
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got 3 books. Tell us about your books.
The first one's Kindness is Contagious, and the second one is Kindness is Courageous. And they are both 100 stories that came from the newspaper column that I write. That column I started writing 10 years ago, and it really helped me to be intentional about kindness because I asked people to send in their stories of kindness, and I asked them, tell me about something you did and how it made you feel, or a time when kindness showed up at just the right moment when you needed it. And I got to share those stories in the newspaper. And so 10 years later, I am still sharing those in this Kindness is Contagious column, and it runs in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. So that's really, really fun. So we did that to create the first 2 books. And then for the 3rd book, I had a girlfriend of mine, and she said, "Would you please write me a how-to book?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "The way that you can spin things to show kindness in them." She said, "That's not normal."
Yeah.
You see kindness in things that I don't see. And so I ended up writing The Negativity Remedy, which is the subtitle is Unlocking More Joy, Less Stress, and Better Relationships Through Kindness. And it has just been so fun to hear people react to it because I'm pretty authentic in the fact that I am still a big work in progress. I would love to hear people's stories of kindness. I still am collecting those, and I'd love for people to send them to me at info@NicoleJPhillips.com. And I have a weekly podcast called The Kindness Podcast, so I hope people will join me there.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. Appreciate it.
I am so thrilled. This is my honor. Absolutely.
Ben Lefke, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm so excited to have you. You've been with Yes Communities for quite some time. Tell us a little bit about your position, what you do.
Yeah, so I've been with Yes for 8 years now. I'm a RVP currently, Regional Vice President over a region in Dallas.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys have done to support the local community.
Well, Yes gives us the work hours that we can use for charity every year. And so what we used to do is we used to take those 8 hours and do them all in the December timeframe where we felt like, we were helping out during Christmas. And what we clearly realized was those charities get very busy at that time of the year. And there's people in need throughout the entire year, of course. And so we decided maybe back in 2016 or 17 to split those up and do 4 hours in the spring and then do 4 hours in December when there is still a big need. We'll get the team together and we'll kind of roll out and we will go to a local place where we've been going. It's kind of supported by the North Texas Food Bank. Cars will come by and we will help load groceries and we'll just have fun 2 different days, supporting the community, in the spring, and then another 2 different days, in December if we need. And everyone feels so good about giving back. And we've even seen at times people that we know take advantage of those services. So we know folks that are directly connected to us are getting the benefit of these local services. And it just feels good to help support them.
I've seen a lot of the pictures of these hug a home projects where you go out and you'll really help residents update their homes that might be in a little disrepair. And this is in the middle of summer in Dallas when it's so hot. I've been down to Dallas in the summer and it is hot. Yet the team members are working to get somebody's house up and running. I mean, it's amazing work. And I think kudos to you and your team, especially being down in such a hot area to be able to do that.
Yeah. So first of all, you're welcome to come down to Dallas per COVID guidelines.
Yeah.
We will take your two hands and your help anytime. So we have a property, Willow Lakes, there in the Mesquite kind of, well, it's technically Dallas, but in this Mesquite region, and we did a hug a home out there a couple years ago in July, and it was hot, and it was one of those where we rallied the troops. We show up at 9 in the morning. We have donuts and coffee for everybody, and then we get to work. And how it works is we have vendors that partner with us. And so these vendors are very generous as well and provide quite a bit of the material for us. So by the time we get there, everything's ready to go. And maybe some of the harder items that isn't going to be very efficient for us to attack as a big group. Maybe there's some siding, some technical things. If it's plumbing or something along the lines that we're not going to do, we'll have a vendor have that already ready for us and done, completed. So when we show up, we can be as efficient as possible and paint and do caulking and maybe rebuild a deck, do the things that we can do quickly and efficiently, but make a very big impact. We can help clean up the site. The team has a great time. We make it fun. And I think that's the biggest part of this is that I want to make sure when I do these, the residents home, obviously, because I want them, if they're comfortable with it, to come out and I want to meet them. And the one we just did recently, I know I was going back a couple years to the last one, but the one we just did recently was at a property, Amber Village in Dallas, Texas. And the lady was so grateful. She came out and clearly had picked the paint color beforehand. And so we had everything done the way, approved through her, and she liked it and was very appreciative. And her deck that she had before just wasn't safe. And she has 2 adult children that are handicapped. And so we were able to rebuild the entire ramp, make it safe, paint the house, and give it the update and upgrade that it needed. We're talking a resident that has been with us for over 26 years. at that point. And when she came out, it was great. We got to talk to her. We got to share that experience with her
Yeah.
and say, this is awesome. And then we got to hear how she had been there since the community had dirt roads, and she had been there for so long, and she got to see the community kind of come into what it is today. And she's been there so long. Very grateful that we could help her out. And we're not just going to say, hey, we can't make it happen, because it's not an option, right? We want to do it. It's fun.
Ben, it's always amazing chatting with you. You're such an instrumental person, rallying your teams and making sure we keep this culture going.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to What Living Means. If you've enjoyed our show, please consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Vanessa Jasinski, and I'll see you next time.